episode of Live in the Vision. I'm your host, Chris Jacobson. Very excited about tonight's guest. I have Alisa Miller, who is the owner of Yankton Therapeutic Massage, but also has a lot of other business operations going on, and I think she'll be a very insightful guest. Thank you, Alisa, for being on.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So I always like to start out with a little bit about your background, kind of how you became a business owner, entrepreneur, if you like to call that. Give us a little background on you.
Okay. Well, I graduated in 1999 from Yankton High School.
Nice.
Yeah. And I started my education at Mount Marty here in town. And I finished what is now known as my business degree online, not completing it all at Mount Marty. I was in a car accident, which gave me whiplash and led me into going into the field of massage therapy. At the time, I was seeing a chiropractor, and that and the physical therapy and the doctors was not enough to solve, I guess, all of the bodily injury that I had. And my massage therapist in Sioux Falls had offered me a seat in his class as, you know, mostly just to learn massage, to fix myself. And I figured, well, why not? You know, I didn't find a job with my business degree. And I, you know, at the time, I think minimum wage was around $6 an hour. That was not really enough for me to want to work anywhere at minimum wage.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of a vision at the time to use my business degree, and I had no plans to ever be a business owner. And so I decided, and I was already married at this time, to ask my husband what he thought about going to massage school. And he said, if you can figure out a way to pay for it, you can go. And with, you know, and I'd already through high school hustled 3 jobs just to pay for what I wanted. And as a college student, had found ways to pay for books, as well as working 2 jobs and going to school full time. So hustling up at the time was about $5,500 to go to school. I took the easy way, and I applied for 2 credit cards. I went ahead and thought, you know, I can do this 0 interest thing and put the college right on a credit card. But how am I going to finance the drive to Sioux Falls every day to go to school and not work, because school was going to be full time? And I went ahead and decided to get one for gas. And, you know, my husband was not quite impressed with the plan, but went ahead anyway. And I went to school, and I graduated planning on, I went from the direction or the vision of just going to learn how to fix myself and be pain-free, or as pain-free as I could with managed care, to deciding before I left school to open Yankton Therapeutic Massage in 2004 as a massage therapist with just some very basic massage certifications.
2 things jump out at me about that. One, like the serendipity of, or fate, or call it whatever the circumstances were, that you yourself were in an accident, and that led you to care a lot about the human body and you know, recovering and repairing yourself. And like the car accident, terrible thing that happened, but yet it led to what would later be your career field for the last 16 years. And then the other part of that was just kind of the hustle of figuring out, like, how am I going to make this work, and just finding a way. So both of those I thought were pretty cool themes. So what was your background even before that? Were your parents business owners or entrepreneurs? Were you an athlete that was very competitive? What do you think kind of led your DNA to want to be, I'm going to go out and hang my own shingle and be a business owner?
I was a very quiet person through school. My senior year, I had a few friends. I moved to Yankton when I was 14 from Sioux City, Iowa, and I left all my friends behind. My mom had remarried. She was a single mom. I don't know what she made, but we struggled. And when we moved here, my stepfather was a truck driver and had his own business, but was, just an independent contractor, just really was a two-man show with him and his dad. There was, one thing he had instilled in me, and if I look, I probably didn't notice it at the time, but if you look back now, every day as a self-employed person, you wake up and you're not going to get paid unless you go to work.
Right.
And to this day, I still look at that, and I think that's why I have the drive to hustle that dollar, no matter what it is, or maybe create just another business or side hustle along the way.
Right.
And to this day, he's still doing the same thing. My mom just recently retired, and out of all of my siblings, I have one sister that just started a business, but we all have our own side hustles, and I do see that it is consistent as far as my siblings.
That's fun. That's fun. So talk to me about the different, you've got, talk to us about the number of businesses in which you're involved and kind of how you've adapted your approach when things were working or not working. How did you sort of navigate to where you are?
Well, I started with Yankton Therapeutic Massage, just renting what I could afford without taking any loans. To this day, I still believe not taking loans for business, however, did for, brick and mortar property in the end. But I started by just renting what I could afford. Back in the day, it was $150 for a one room in the basement, not handicap accessible. So probably not the best thing to do, but I was so young. But you'd learn as you go. I eventually went to get the space next to me and doubled my space as well as my rent, and then decided, why I have this extra room, I can't do massage in 2 rooms, so let's add another therapist and rent that room so I can make money from them to cover, basically half the bills, because I can't use both rooms at the same time.
Right.
And that's kind of where I started to hustle in that area.
Right.
So I went from Yankton Therapeutic Massage to moving into another building because my building sold, my landlord sold, and then I was in a building that I am currently in, and the owner decided to sell again. And they knew I was interested, but I had never thought about purchasing a building or spending that kind of money, or I guess maybe investing that type of money into a business. But still, I was in the middle of buying a bigger home because I had 6 kids, for which were adopted. And I felt I needed a bigger home. But when the building was put up for sale, made the choice. My husband and I made the choice to decide to buy the building instead.
Right.
There was a location in the building, and it was a building with multiple businesses in it, so it was already fully leased. When they knew that it was going to sell, we lost one of the tenants. And at that time, going to a loan officer to explain, I want to buy this building, but we've got this open spot, it wasn't going to break even in the business plan, which they required.
Right.
I didn't know how to do a business plan, and I couldn't afford to hire somebody to do a business plan, so this is where the hustling comes in. I decided to buy a software program and learn how to do it myself. Even though I had a business degree, it wasn't something I had done on a regular basis, but the information was there, and I did my own business plan. I got approved, but I needed that space leased to close the deal on the building, and so we decided to start our own salon. So there comes number 2 business. I did not know it was possible to get a cosmetology license when you've never been to cosmetology school. Let alone my husband didn't think his name would ever be on a license. We just started making phone calls, and we found out we can get insured. We could get the cosmetology salon insurance, we could get the license. All we needed to do then is find out how we would staff it.
Right.
And then if you don't do it as employees, it's just considered being a landlord. And you don't have the responsibility of that.
Right.
So we started a salon. With that locked in, we had a salon started. We bought the building. They let us buy it. We had no one to work in it. And eventually we were able to get Angie from Walmart. She had been working there, and now she has been with us for a few years. And then I got a good friend, Steph, to take over the other part. And so they run that. And I pretty much just let them kind of do things and learn as they go, and there to answer questions for them.
What a great story, though. You just out of having to figure it out, starts yet another business. That's business number 3 now, after doing Yankton Therapeutic, then owning the building now, starting another one inside of it, and doing the grunt work, making the calls.
And
Awesome.
buying the building created a business in its own. The bank, and I didn't know this at the time, the bank required us to start an LLC just to own property.
Right.
And so that creates its own. And so then I had done my income tax on my own for years after an accountant messed them up. I decided that was it. I know my business better than anybody else. I'm going to do it myself. And I was lost when all of a sudden I went from one Schedule C in my taxes to having to also figure out the rest. But then learned it's all just rental property. Mm-hmm. And they have their own EINs, but it's super easy.
Right. And talk to us about your family creations business. That was kind of interesting.
We've always done kind of some Facebook sales and eBay sales as extra income. And I have a daughter who was just born without hemoglobin A in her blood. So she has always accumulated a lot of medical bills. And because I couldn't stretch more income out of my businesses, we had to find another way without losing our lifestyle as well as tapping into our savings to create more income, but not lose time with our family. And so when you sit there and you think about that, I could have went and got a second job. I could have worked more time doing massage, but that takes away time from my family. Mm-hmm. And so what we decided to do is start a business in its own. So it was legal. We did the sales tax license. We got itself all established for the federal government for taxes. We started our own family business and we spent time together creating crafts, which I have never been a crafter. But we have learned along the way, and we have some specific clients, and I can create things custom now, and we've learned to sell them on lots of other platforms I've never sold on online. Mm-hmm. And that has created enough money to cover all of her medical bills our insurance doesn't, and then also now to save
cash flow positive.
Yes,
that's fantastic. I love that. So when you're thinking about all these different business ventures that you're a part of, how do you quantify your success? How do you feel, or when did you feel rather, that you became successful or you sort of made it?
I don't know that I ever really have thought about that as something I've never said, Alisa, I think you're successful. And I think that's because being self-employed, it's always got to be a move in the direction, to just every day, again, you got to wake up, you've got to make that income, and it can be stripped away from you basically the day you decide to wake up and not make that income. And so, I've never really considered myself successful. However, in my industry, I have chose to make certain business choices to set myself aside from others in the same industry. And to do so, I decided to specialize in therapeutic instead of the spa end of massage, which is more acceptable in the healthcare field as well as in society. You have less shady things going on. We consider ourselves professional. I wanted a professional business name. And so just making those choices as you go. And if you decide to do something and it doesn't work out, you just change it. You're the boss. You just change it. Instead of thinking you failed and quitting or throwing in the towel, you just decide to make a change. And sorry, I do know my husband would say I'm successful, and the reason he would say that is because I always have, he would always, the wife is always right. Well, he would say, I always have had new massage therapists or ones that are interested in the field always come to me and explain how I've gotten to where I am, because I have a consistent income that is predictable every year. And it's in a field that most therapists only work short time and can't make it.
Right.
And really, the biggest thing is when you're self-employed, if you don't have those massage appointments or whatever it is you're in the field of, you have to go find them. Mm-hmm. You have to make the calls. You've got to make the letters. You've got to source that business if it's not coming to you naturally. And so if you don't have those appointments that day, you have to go find those. You can't just take the day off and say, I've got more time with my family, because that money will never be there.
Right. I loved your answer. I loved it almost felt strange for me asking the question of how do you decide you're successful, because there is really, that was a setup question, Alyssa, so I think you nailed that one. It's a process, and you're going along, and you're doing what you do, and things change. You adapt, you change. Like right now, we're faced with a really, really unfamiliar scenario that put some businesses out of business by no fault of their own. So I wouldn't call that business owner unsuccessful. It's part of circumstances.
Very much so.
No one saw this coming. There was no way you could have pre-planned or whatever. Some people are just put out of business. And I hope that if any of those are listening, they are able to dust themselves off, make a plan. How can you either adapt your business to the changing environment, or what's a new business coming out of this that you could start to then be successful. So I really like that. You've never really arrived. You're always still just working and moving and doing your thing, because at the point that you don't, to your point, the income stops. You can't ever just sit back on your laurels, or it all kind of unravels itself.
Exactly.
So what's kind of in your future? What do you see out on the horizon as far as your businesses?
Well, and I've tried to make this clear to my clients, because they're always worried that I'm going to go somewhere. And I have the opportunity with my husband's job. I could go anywhere. In my field, I could go anywhere to work. But we love Yankton. In the future, I've always just planned to stay where I'm at. I'm really good at what I do for some reason. I'm just naturally good. Massage is, really the braille of the anatomy. And to have the touch, to be able to feel what's going on with the muscles, is kind of an art in its own, and not everybody can be taught that in school. So I know I'm good at what I do, and so I really want to stay in that field as my primary source of income. However, with any business, you've got to have some side hustle or some option, just like we've seen the restaurants kind of transition to, hey, we'll deliver to you. Or let's do carry out stuff they've never thought of before. Yep. Massage, we can go, if I didn't have a brick and mortar place, or some of these businesses will lose their brick and mortar during this process, or they can't operate, or they can't pay for employees. Maybe, in my field, I can come to your house and do massage if I wanted to. I can go to your office and do massage. There's always got to be another way, no matter what field you're in, or maybe you just got to pick up another business or create something else. You still have all of that, experience. Right. Maybe what you had started just isn't going to be possible in the future.
I like it, and that dovetails kind of nicely into my next question. Was what advice or tidbits alongside that would you give to help a listener who's thinking, I want to go start my own thing? Maybe it's a side hustle, or maybe they full on want to start a new business. What would you tell them as a tip or a word of encouragement?
I always try to help those that want to start something, and I've got kind of that personality that you could start a business out of nothing. Literally, Chris, you could go buy a dog leash and become a dog walker tomorrow. That's what, $10 at most. You could start a business from that. You could start a Facebook page for free now. You can start a business from anything now. It's just really what you need is drive, and not to let anyone tell you can't do it. There's always got to be, really just the positivity. You got to wake up every day and say, I'm going to find a way today to make this successful. In my head, make $1. And some days you're not going to make that $1, but you're still working towards that. Yeah. Just like I'm still working with Yankton Therapeutic Massage, even though we're closed. But I'm working on revamping my website that's been outdated for 10 years. Right. Eventually that's going to pay off for me.
Exactly. The activity.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, I really appreciate this interview today, Alyssa. Where can people find you if they're looking to connect?
We've got our website, YanktonTherapeuticMassage.com. I have my phone numbers on there. We are on our Facebook page, same thing, YanktonTherapeuticMassage.com. I'm always located at 231 Broadway. Most of my clients know where I live. I'm here in town, but my cell phone is public. Anytime someone texts me, I helped a lot of people with their unemployment applications through this process, just learning, and I didn't know how to do that. I've made a lot of phone calls, but they can connect with me pretty much on Facebook or through my phone.
Thank you so much for doing the interview today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.